You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. You can see here I've started, putting up some things for my streaming corner here. I still got to put some things up on the wall, but it's coming, I promise. This is just staging for now, but I'm glad I got my chalkboard back. But you know what? We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about a lot of 49ers news, and that is the 49ers 53-man roster, which was literally just announced. So we are going to talk all about it. Let's see here. So we got to talk about some cuts, what's going on. Melissa, what's going on? 49ers Lakers for life. Let's talk about some of the roster cuts that we saw today. So among the cuts was the ones announced today. Cornerback Tariq Castro-Fields, a 49ers 6th-round pick in this year's draft, and Quantrez Knight. Quantrez Knight was one of the undrafted free agents. He became the backup nickel corner after Darqueze Dennard was cut, and Samuel Womack became the starting nickel corner. But the 49ers often they don't keep more than two nickel corners, they don't keep more than one. So it makes sense that Quantrez Knight, odd man out in this situation. And I would completely expect the 49ers to try to get Tariq Castro-Fields and Quantrez Knight on their practice squad. Reminder, the NFL teams are able to have 16 players on their practice squad. They could have at least 10 of them have to be rookie or second-year players, and then they can have up to 6 veteran players on their practice squad as well. So those rules are still the same. And another cornerback that they released was Dante Johnson. The running joke is that Dante Johnson is going to be back, okay? We already know this. It's written in the stars already. It's pretty much a 10th commandment at this point. Dante Johnson must be re-signed, so don't worry about it. He's going to be back. And among the secondary group of cuts, safety Tashawn Gibson, who was one of the signings later in the offseason. It was happened in the last week of training camp. So he already had an uphill battle to make this team, regardless of Jimmy Ward, going on IR and dealing with his injury. Taylor Hopkins as well is another cut today. On the linebacker side, Zaguna Luby and Marcelino McCrary-Ball are cuts. I like Marcelino McCrary-Ball. I would love to have him on the practice squad. We'll see if the 49ers feel the same way. As far as defensive line goes, a lot of surprise cuts, and let's just face it, this defensive line group is so deep. We knew that there were going to be some tough decisions to make here, and some, quite frankly, that we were not going to be very happy about. Kemoko Turay, he's been one of my favorites throughout training camp and the preseason, and so he was, to me, one of those surprise cuts, but he was playing late into the fourth quarter in that final preseason game against the Texans. So to me, the writing was kind of on the wall there for Kemoko Turay, Kevin Atkins as well, and Akeem Spence and Jordan Willis. Although the note on Jordan Willis, the report is that Jordan Willis has already agreed to sign back with the team once Jimmy Ward or Curtis Robinson are placed on IR. So Jordan Willis is going to be back. This is just a procedural move to cut him right now because the 49ers had to get down to 53. So Jordan Willis, 49ers already have an agreement for him to be back with the team. So don't worry too much about that one. And then Nate Sutfield, one of the cuts, and what that means Brock Purdy ended up making this team. So Nate Sutfield, you can call that a surprise cut, but honestly, he costs a little bit more money than Brock Purdy. So, in that sense, it's not too surprising. On the offensive line, Jordan Mills, Alfredo Gutierrez, Jason Poe. Jason Poe is definitely a surprising one for this team. I mean, I know a lot of people were pulling for Jason Poe, and I definitely was as well. He's absolutely a practice squad candidate, and I hope the team can bring him back. And I hope he doesn't get snatched up by another team. That's what you don't want. But 49ers, I would imagine, are definitely going to want him back on the practice squad. Justin School also was cut, as well as Keaton Sutherland. Wide receivers, Marcus Johnson, Malik Turner. Malik Turner, I was slightly surprised of because I thought he would be the sixth wide receiver on the roster. Now they're really just keeping 5. We'll talk about that group in a bit. But Malik Turner, I thought his special teams ability, really added to his value. But yeah, he was one of the cuts. So slightly surprising there. Tay Martin as well as Willie Snead were among the wide receiver cuts. And from the running backs, really the only running back that was cut was JaMycal Hasty, meaning that the 49ers are going with 5 running backs on this team. Bit surprising because they usually, when they have their 53-man roster, they usually keep 4. So a little surprising. We'll talk about the running back group more in a bit, but JaMycal Hasty, he was the odd man out here, and he will most likely go to the practice squad. I'm not too worried about another team snatching Hasty up, and I think that was the main decision of keeping Jordan Mason instead. Maybe they feared Jordan Mason was going to get picked up by another team. JaMycal Hasty, not so much. So easier decision in that sense. And for the tight ends, Troy Fumagalli and Tyler Kroft have also been cut. Listen, I was a Tyler Kroft fan, but it makes sense. He was one of the odd men out here in the tight end group, and the 49ers are electing to keep, I think it's three tight ends on the team. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Let me get to some of these comments over here. Appreciate it, guys. Make sure you guys are liking this video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it. Let's try to get to 30 likes on this one. 30 likes. I know that we can do it. Let's go. Let's get those likes up. I appreciate it so much. All right. Now, let me get to some of these comments. Yeah, Melissa says, they said once Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson go into 4 games IR, Jordan Willis and Kroft will be back. So Tyler Kroft could also be back on this team. Yeah, Tyler Kroft. Sorry, yeah, Jordan Willis was one of the ones I mentioned that when Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson go to IR, they're going to bring these guys back. So Tyler Kroft, one of the other cuts who has a chance to be back on this team after those guys get placed on IR. Yeah, Jordan Willis was surprised, but like I said, it's just a procedural move. He's already agreed to come back with the team, so no harm, no foul in that sense. Glad they kept Purdy. I have mixed feelings, but we'll talk about it more in a bit. Yeah, appreciate the comments. All right, let's talk about this 53-man roster, starting with the quarterbacks. I mean, Trey Lance, he's still the QB1. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch spoke with the media today, and they pretty much echoed what they've been saying this entire time. Trey Lance is our guy. The only reason we signed Jimmy Garoppolo is because, I mean, let's face it, the opportunity was on their laps because no trades, no other opportunities for Jimmy Garoppolo had really developed. So it was an easy decision for the 49ers to, try to get Jimmy Garoppolo back in the fold. But they said it would only work, 1, if he agreed to be just the backup, and 2, if he took less money. And so that was the big sticking points to this decision. And they were able to work that out. So Jimmy Garoppolo becomes the QB2 on this team, and they elect to keep Brock Purdy. I know some of you are excited about Brock Purdy. Hey, I am too. But at the same time, for how deep this roster is, I really felt like they could have kept just Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo without the need to keep Brock Purdy, because what are the chances that your third-string quarterback is going to need to play, especially when your second-string quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, is a really good backup? He's starter ability. Why would you need a third quarterback? But at the same time, Brock Purdy comes at a very cheap price, so I understand it from that sense, but you have to wonder, did Brock Purdy take the roster spot of someone else who, maybe could have made the team at a, much bigger position of need? Jason Poe, perhaps. Any one of those cuts that we just looked at, you can point to any one of them and say that guy got cut because Brock Purdy is on the roster. So I don't know. excited about Brock Purdy. Sure, I understand it, but also this team is very, very deep in other areas, and they had to cut bait with some really good players in some other positions because they did elect to keep Brock Purdy. Let's talk about the wide receivers. So as I mentioned, they're electing to just keep 5 wide receivers, but it's a pretty strong group of receivers here. We have Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, the 2 starters there, followed by Ray McLeod and Juwan Jennings, who I think will work interchangeably at the slot position. And then, of course, we have Danny Gray, who I think will get his shot in situational circumstances. And I think this is a really solid group of wide receivers. They don't feel that they needed to keep 6 in this case. And, I'm not too mad at it. No questions from, this group at all. All right. And then we got the running backs. And, of course, the fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. But as far as the running backs go, it is highlighted by Elijah Mitchell, followed by Jeff Wilson Jr., and then Trey Sermon, who a lot of people felt like he shouldn't have made the team. Well, he did make the team, as well as Ty Davis-Price, who, of course, was going to make the team because he was this year's 3rd-round draft pick. And Jordan Mason, who the Jordan Mason hive was buzzing. Everybody wanted Jordan Mason on this team, and he makes the cut. And this is actually a surprise because not just because they're keeping 5 running backs on this team, they usually keep 4, but because, as I mentioned, JaMycal Hasty really came between Hasty and Mason, I think, and Jordan Mason got the edge. So they're definitely, I feel like there's a changing of the guard a little bit where the 49ers are, more open to younger players, giving them the opportunity to, not only make this team, but have a shot at, some real playing time. Jordan Mason, probably at the bottom of the pecking order in this group, but, we all know how injuries happen in the running back room. So I think keeping 5 is a way to, 1, insulate them, and 2, looking at the fact that all of these backs are, pretty big guys. They're over 210 pounds, all of these guys. So I think it speaks to what the 49ers want to bring. They want to pound the ball. There's an emphasis on running the football, and not just that, but to have guys who can sustain all of those carries. So I think they've done a really good job of this group. Melissa has a question. So, hey, Steph, likelihood 10 becomes a New York Giant. Is that what you meant? New York Giant with them releasing David Webb. There's only one legitimate healthy QB. I don't know. I know that there is a possibility for Jimmy Garoppolo to get traded, but at the same time, that's going to be on Jimmy Garoppolo's terms. It's going to have to be to, 1, a team and a situation that favors him, that he wants to go to, and that's the only way that he will get traded, because he has to agree to waiving his no trade clause in order for that to happen. Would he want to go to the Giants? I don't know if I would, but yeah, to answer your question, it's possible, but only if Jimmy Garoppolo wants it to happen. So yeah. Melissa says, Hasty had the special teams disasters and was a fumbler. Not shocked why he is the one cut. Yeah, there's a reason he was at the bottom of the pecking order in the running backs group. And with the, he did have some value on special teams, I thought. But yeah, there's some fumbles, some mistakes here and there. So I think JaMycal Hasty being cut makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I don't see any teams going out to get him, and the 49ers can bring JaMycal Hasty back to the practice squad. Let's talk about the tight ends. Keeping just 3, George Kittle, Charlie Warner, and Ross Dwelly. But as we mentioned, Tyler Kroft has agreed to come back to the team once Jimmy Ward or Curtis Robinson go on injured reserve. So Tyler Kroft will be back on the team. And I'm a Tyler Kroft fan, so I don't know exactly where he'd be on this pecking order, but I'd imagine he'd probably be the 3rd or 4th tight end on the list here. moving on. Again, no questions really about the tight ends, so not much to talk about there. But the offensive line, this is something to talk about here. We have Trent Williams, we have Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, and Mike Mcglinchey. Those are the starters right there. Aaron Banks, first-year starter, second-year player. Jake Brendel, first-year starter. He's been in the league for years now, but this is his first time getting the crack at being a starter and at an important position at center. And then we have Spencer Burford, rookie, starting on this team. Mike Mcglinchey, we all know who he is. So very solid on the ends tackle spot with Trent Williams and Mike Mcglinchey, assuming Mike Mcglinchey is going to be healthy, and some new faces on this team or on this offensive line. So it'll be interesting. But the 49ers, it seems like they're comfortable with this group. So after these 5 starters, there's Colton Mckivitz, there's Nick Zakalj, which Nick Zakalj, it was somewhat surprising in a way that he made the team, but he made this team over Jason Poe. And it was a little rough for Zakalj at first. Training camp, it didn't start off too hot for him, but, he got better with time, and the 49ers like what they see in Zakalj. So that is why they elected to keep him on the 53. And Daniel Brunskill is also going to be on this team. He's versatile. He provides good depth. I'm not mad at it at all. And then Jalen Moore is going to be a backup as well. All right, let's see here. Melissa says Croft will be 3 and Dwelley 4. I think so because Ross Dwelley has had his shot at, having a bigger role in this tight end group, but, he's kind of always left you a little disappointed. This makes sense, but also I could see it the other way around as well. What's going on? No Borders. Yeah, Debo, that like button. I like that. Definitely hit that like button. We're trying to get to 30 likes on this video, so let's fucking go. Mariah, what's going on? No Border says, I want Poe. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Jason Poe was one of my favorite players throughout training camp and someone who I'm really hoping clears waivers so that the 49ers can get him on the practice squad. You got to remember, a lot of players were cut today, not just the 49ers players. So I know there's a lot of fear that, oh no, he's going to get picked up by another team. Other teams have so many players to choose from. So I'm hoping that Jason Poe clears waivers and the 49ers can get him back on the practice squad. I know we'll all be crossing our fingers for that. What's going on, Niner Fanatic? Yeah, Melissa says, we all want Poe back. That we do. But it's possible he can land on the practice squad, and that's what we're going to be waiting on. So definitely hoping for that. Let's talk about the defensive line now. Going to the defensive side of the ball, we've got Nick Bosa, we've got Eric Armstead, we've got Javon Kinlaw, Samson Ebukam. Those are your starters right there, followed by Drake Jackson, Charles Omenihu, Kevin Givens, Hassan Ridgeway, and Kerry Hyder Jr. And a reminder, once again, Jordan Willis is going to be back on this team once Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson are placed on IR tomorrow. So it's 9 defensive linemen right now. Tomorrow, it is going to be 10 defensive linemen, which is pretty on par with what this team has done historically at the defensive line for how deep they have been. Mariah says she's in mourning right now. Mariah, why are you in mourning? Who are you mourning today? Jason Poe, perhaps? Let us know in the comments. I am curious. Melissa says, now I just need my guy, Josh Hokett, back on the practice squad. Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening. It's fullback insurance. He's been around the team for, a while now. So I can totally see Josh Hokett being one of those guys. He was one of the early cuts on this team, happened, last week. So, yeah, a lot of teams don't even use a fullback anymore, so it just makes sense for Hokett to come back to the 49ers, and hopefully he'll have a spot on the practice squad. Reminder, teams can have up to 16 players on their practice squad. So I don't see why not for Hoke. He can definitely make it. Melissa says, I knew Chris Kosarick would have Kerry Hyder Jr. stay. Yeah, I like Kerry Hyder for sure. He re-signed with the team this offseason after his stint with the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm also, glad to see him back on the team. This defensive line is absolutely stacked. If one guy goes down, I don't think they're going to miss a beat very, very much. Yeah, No Border says Jordan Willis deserves a spot, and he's going to get a spot because tomorrow when Jimmy Ward or Curtis Robinson are placed on IR, he's coming right back. So Niner Fanatic says Poe will be back. Yeah, I freaking hope so. I mean, like I said, he's got to clear waivers first, and there's no question that he's going to be back on the practice squad. Look, let's see here. Melissa said, first round of cuts right after Green Bay. Oh, yeah. Okay, you're talking about Josh Hokett. Mariah says, morning that Jimmy G is here, that we kept 3 freaking QBs. Poe, McCrary, Ball, Teray. I can keep going. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. I know a lot of that I was not completely happy with when I first heard about it. But, hey, this roster is absolutely stacked. And I think the only thing here on this list that I'm somewhat irrationally mad at is the fact that they kept 3 quarterbacks, because in my mind, that could have Brock Purdy's spot could have gone to another position of greater need. But that's my only thing there. But at the same time, Brock Purdy comes at a pretty cheap price. So, it makes sense. They want to keep him around. Backup of the future, I guess. Melissa asks, Steph, does it concern you so many one-year deals on this 53-man roster? Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has to concern you, right? There's, I think, close to 40 players who are on a final year of their contract, or it's a one-year deal. So that is a lot of players when you think about it. And that was 40 players, I think, before the cut down to 53. So it might not be that bad now. But still, yeah, that's a lot of turnover potentially in the next few years. And so I think that's a big reason why the 49ers are going to want to get some of these rookies on their practice squad, because you got to develop these guys, because these guys are going to be slated for bigger roles next year or the year after that, but most likely next year. And it's really important for the 49ers to hit on their draft, which they did this year. So far, it looks like a very promising draft. But yeah, they got to develop their guys, and next year they have to have another really good draft. So does it concern me? Yes, to an extent, of course. But now that they have a little more money, and again, if they're drafting well, it'll all be okay. And by a little more money, the 49ers are now, they have the 5th highest cap space of any team. So that bodes well for them. And I think they're going to want to carry a lot of that over to next year as much as they can. Because like you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of turnover next year. So they're going to want to save all that money. And as well, you got to remember the fact that the NFL has those TV deals going into the cap very soon. So that will definitely just add to the, reserve money that the 49ers have, and they'll be able to bring some guys in, no problem. Yeah, Niner Fanatic, Jordan Mason made it. We're obviously really happy about that. We got to take any win that we can, right? I mean, it was either, you can't win them all. Jason Poe maybe didn't make it, but Jordan Mason did. So, hey, let's celebrate that. Yeah, as far as Brock Purdy, I don't know if anyone was going to pick him up either, but hey, I don't make the decisions here. All right, let's see. Yeah, Melissa said 3 QBs, and Teray balled, Kamiko Teray. So the other 2, but I had Teray over Ridgeway. So Hassan Ridgeway. Yeah, I like Hassan Ridgeway, though. I think because he was hurt for that amount of time during training camp, it was easy to kind of, count him out and forget about him. But Hassan Ridgeway is a beast as well. So, it makes sense that the 49ers elected to keep Ridgway over Teray, because Teray was more of an edge guy and they have a lot of depth at edge. So, yeah, it makes sense. Melissa also says, I'm shocked there were no trades for 49ers players. I was also shocked because they do trade guys quite often. So I wonder if they even try to get someone traded, or if they looked at, keeping, trading for someone else on another roster, an offensive lineman. There were some reports that the 49ers maybe were interested in, other offensive linemen out there. That could still be the case. A safety, even, like, there could be some interest in a safety. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But no trades. But maybe they pick up an offensive lineman from another team or a safety. But they've got down to 53. If they pick up someone else, they're going to have to cut someone else from the team in order to bring that player in, right? So who would you cut at that point? Those are the tough decisions the team would have to make. So we'll see what happens if they decide to bring anyone in. No Border Sports says Ridgway is for the run game. Absolutely, you definitely need a run stuffer there, and he's that big-bodied defensive lineman that can really stuff the line and stuff the run game. So I'm not mad at it. Melissa asks, are you part of bring back Tart? Would I want to bring back Tart? Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, are you part of the team bring back Tart? Yeah, I would, honestly. Just the fact that Jimmy Ward is going to be out at least 4 games. That's at least, guys. There's potential for more. It could go up to 6, maybe. I mean, I hope it's not more than that, but I say 4 to 6 games is his sweet spot, I guess you can say, for Jimmy Ward on this roster, or being out on IR. So yeah, I would definitely bring Tart back, but it's all a question of would Jaquiski Tart want to come back to the 49ers after everything that happened, last year? That's the big question. And we'll just wait and see. But if I'm the 49ers, yeah, I'm definitely going to try to bring Tart back. They'd be a fool not to. There was another safety who the Eagles cut as well, Anthony Harris, also could be an option for the 49ers. But at the same time, Jaquiski Tart, he can be plug and play. He already knows this system. He already is familiar with the defense. He'll be ready to go, right away to, get some snaps. No Border says Tart, when on the field, goes hard all the time. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would definitely welcome him back. Melissa says, I ask because aren't Tart and Hufanga stronger at the same position? We need somebody who is good at Ward does. Yeah, I spoke with, did a podcast with Jay yesterday. It's actually on the channel. And we spoke about Jaquiski Tart. And I asked him this, could Tart play the Jimmy Ward role? And he said, yeah, he could. And really, a lot of that is because the 49ers' 2 safety positions are pretty interchangeable. A lot of the time for the free safety and strong safety, those roles are, somewhat completely different. But on the 49ers, there's not much. It's not that different. So it's really more just a title than an actual difference in roles on this defense. So, to that point, I think Jaquiski Tart can, to an extent, do what Jimmy Ward was doing. So, yeah, I would bring him back. But yeah, let's talk about the next group here. Let's talk about the linebackers, headlined by Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair, the big 3. And then we have Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, Oren Burks, and Curtis Robinson, who is on the roster right now, but he is going to be placed on IR tomorrow. So he will be out of this group, and then it will just be 5 linebackers on the team. So, I mean, this group is pretty straightforward as well. Oren Burks, he was someone they signed from He played on the Colts last year. And was it the Colts? I think it was Colts. Oh no, I think it was Packers. Sorry. I'm thinking about oh my god, what's his name? Thinking about the guy. There's a guy that played on the Packers last year. Oh my god, never mind. Okay. Oren Burks, he played on the Packers last year. He's going to be a backup linebacker in this group and pretty solid, can contribute on special teams as well. So this is a pretty solid group. We all know this. And let's talk about the cornerbacks. Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley are going to be your two starters on the outside, followed by Samuel Womack. Slot corner, Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore are still alive. Ambry Thomas, I know there was a lot of talk about whether or not he should make the team. Well, he did. And I always kind of thought that would be the case. I mean, I did question whether or not he would make it, but at the same time, I talk a lot about roster politics, and, I do feel that Ambry Thomas is going to be saved. They're going to continue to give him that shot because he's still a young player. And I don't think they've completely lost hope in Ambry. And Diamador Lenore, I like. So I'm happy with this cornerback group. Such a big improvement from last season. And this doesn't even count the fact that Jason Verrett, who's on the PUP list, is also Verrett, by the way, doesn't count towards the 53 right now. When he returns, the 49ers will have to make a move to get Verrett on the roster, meaning they'll have to cut someone. But when Verrett is in this picture as well, it becomes an even better group. So I'm very excited about the cornerbacks right now. But as we know, the big question are the safeties, right? Because Jimmy Ward, he's going to be going on IR. That move is going to be happening tomorrow. And it's pretty small group here. So Jimmy Ward, if he goes on IR, then they have just 3 safeties on this team. Talanoa Hufanga, Tarvarius Moore, and George Odom. And thank you, Melissa. It was Odom that I was talking about. George Odom he was a former Colts player, and Burks is from the Packers. Yeah, thank you so much. Just 3 guys. I would imagine that the 49ers would try to get another safety on this team. And so you got to wonder if they're only kept 3. Well, assuming we know that Jimmy Ward is going to be on IR tomorrow. So there's no way they only keep 3. So do they have a plan to sign someone else already? We talked about Jaquiski Tartt. He's definitely an option. Anthony Harris, another option. Logan Ryan. I mean, there are options out there. So the team is going to have to make some type of move there at safety. Tashawn Gibson was one of the cuts that they made to get down to 53. So it didn't sound like the team is expecting to have Gibson back. As of right now, it is only Jordan Willis and Tyler Kroft who are going to be signed back once Jimmy Ward and Curtis Robinson go on IR tomorrow. So they're going to have to make a move at safety at some point. It's very thin right now. But we'll wait and see what happens. There's still some time before week 1 for this to shake out. Melissa asks, would you want Castro Fields or Knight on practice squad? I don't see why they can't have both. As I mentioned, the 49ers can have up to 16 players on their practice squad. 10 of those have to be rookie or second-year players. So Tariq Castro Fields or Quantrez Knight are definitely some strong candidates to make it to the practice squad. And I'd be surprised if they get picked up by someone else, by another team. Maybe Quantrez Knight, because that hive has been buzzing as well. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely like both of those guys on the practice squad. They should definitely make it too. Yeah, Melissa, I know you're a big Hufanga fan, as am I. So excited about him starting, but at the same time, worried about who's going to be taking Jimmy Ward's place. That is the big question. Melissa, you think Taylor Hopkins is better than Tarvarius Moore? That's a jump. I don't know if I agree with that, and the 49ers don't either. But Taylor Hopkins, he's nice. I mean, he can make it to the practice squad as well. So that's always an option. What's going on, Ty? Glad you can make it. Reminder to everyone, make sure you like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 30 likes on this one. 30 likes. Let's try to do it. I know we can. I believe in us. Ty says we need more to return to his 2020 form. He does that, and we're solid at safety. Yeah, I mean, there was a time where Tarvarius Moore looked like the future. And, at times, this preseason has been a little shaky for him. But he can still be that guy, I think. And, yeah, I agree. He just needs to get to that 2020 form, and the safety group looks pretty good. I agree there. Melissa says, I don't think Tarvarius has really bounced back from his injury. That's why. Yeah, I think so too. I think he's still shaking the rust off a bit, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think the 49ers should and could make a move at safety before week 1. And I would definitely expect them to do that at some point. So that's the safety group. Like I said, shaky, but some moves can still happen. And then finally, last but not least, the punter, the kicker, and the long snapper. We got Mitch Wishnowski. We got Robbie Gold. And we got long snapper Tabor Pepper. Okay, so come on. We knew these guys were going to be on the team. There's no debate really there. So that's pretty much your San Francisco 49ers 53-man roster at the moment. What do you guys think? Are you guys happy with this group? Who are you most upset? What are you most upset about? Like, which players got cut that you really wanted to make the team? I know Jordan Mason, we're all very excited that he's on the team. So we can at least be happy about that, right? Right? Jordan Willis, he's going to be back on the team. And Tyler Kroft, as I mentioned, he's going to be back tomorrow as well. So all in all, I feel like this is a stacked roster, top to bottom. Really, the only question marks that you can make are at the safety position, followed by the offensive line. But the offensive line, I think, is going to end up panning out. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as it looked in that Texans game, but they're going to take some time to gel. We're going to need to be patient. Same thing with Trey Lance. Patience is key. So I'm going to keep preaching that every week. Be patient with this offense. It's going to click at some point. The offensive line is going to gel. They're going to, they need to build that cohesion together, and that will go a long way once they do that. Ty asks, he says, hey, Steph did some unpacking. She got the background together. Yes, Ty, I tried. I mean, I was like, man, I got to go live again, but I haven't had time to put things up on the wall. So, I just put this corner over here for now. It'll look different. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get a cork board so I don't have to put things up on the wall. But yeah, I'm working on it. You guys will see the evolution of my streaming corner here coming together real soon. Chris says Sermon should have been cut over Hasty. Interesting. That's interesting for sure. Well, I know there were people who are saying Jordan Mason should make the team over Sermon, over Hasty, and whatnot. The 49ers elected to keep five running backs. And so really they just cut one, and JaMychal Hasty was that low-hanging fruit, I guess, for this team to cut. Trey Sermon by no means was at the bottom of the pecking order, although I know a lot of fans seem to think that way. But they still believe in him, and, it's not completely, for any bad reason, right? I think he has shown some good things, I thought, and training camp, he did look good. He looked like a completely different player from last year's training camp. I wasn't at last year's training camp, but I was at this one. So based on things that were said about him last year, it seemed like he was a completely different player this year. And you got to remember, in preseason, they're not running, their full set of plays. It's very vanilla. They don't have a game plan. And we got to remember as well, the offensive line is still, very shaky because they're still trying to get everything together. And so I feel like the offensive line just didn't do Trey Sermon any favors. I put up a couple of all 22 Trey Sermon, all of his snaps from, I believe it was the Packers game, the preseason game, and the Texans preseason game. So you guys watch that. I want you guys to watch that. In fact, if you haven't yet, because I want you to see and make that judgment for yourself, see if the offensive line, did do Trey Sermon any favors. Did he have somewhere to run that he did not, take that hole or whatnot? So go ahead, check that out if you haven't already. Melissa says she's mostly happy, but she is sad about Taylor Hopkins, Kimoko Ture, Marcelino McCrory-Ball, Jason Poe, Fumagalli, and she hates Dwelly. And Jimmy Garoppolo is still here. That's a lot. That's a lot for sure. Taylor Hopkins, I mean, he was a long shot to make the roster. Kimoko Ture, I was a little surprised about. McCrory-Ball, I did like him. But also uphill battle to make the roster just because there's so many other positions of greater need, right? And so it made sense in that sense. And Jason Poe, I feel like they could have made it work with Jason Poe to get him on the roster, but at the same time, I mean, if he makes a practice squad, we forget about all of this, right? So I think there's some options there. We also, remembering about Donovan West. Donovan West was cut, I think, yesterday. So he's someone who also can make the practice squad, because I know a lot of 49er fans were fans of Donovan West, out of the draft. So Fumagalli, that one's an interesting one, Melissa. I don't know what it is about Fumagalli that you're upset about that he got cut. He's fine. I mean, he can also make the practice squad, but I'm pretty happy with their group of tight ends right now. Dwelly, like I said, if he's at the bottom of the pecking order, that's fine by me. Again, he knows the system. He's been here a few years. So as long as he's not the, immediate backup behind George Kittle, I am fine with that. Chris says that Trey Sermon was by far the worst back this preseason. That's fair. I mean, he did have a tough go as far as the stats would tell you. But again, I'd urge you to watch the all 22 that I posted on Trey Sermon. There's 2 videos. Just make sure you check that out. Ty says, I think they're looking for bigger, sturdier backs to handle more of the inside running they plan on doing. Thus, Sermon gets the nod. Yeah, I think I saw it might have been David Lombardi who made that point, that they want to have, putting an emphasis on having, bigger backs. One, because it's a better chance that you're a little more durable and that you can stay healthy. And 2, Jermichael Hasty, he was the smaller back, so it makes sense that he was the odd man out here. Jermichael Hasty probably makes a practice squad, though, so he's not exactly going anywhere. He just didn't make the 53. Let's be honest here, though. Jordan Mason's probably a long shot to be active on game day, so unless there's injury, of course. So, we're not really getting mad at much here. Melissa says, thought DFF was a prime trade guy. I like DFF. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, I think he's very solid. Should anything happen with any of the linebackers, I think he can be someone who, we say next man up very often. He's someone who can step up and, have a nice role. All right, guys. I think we've pretty much covered everything. And it's been a long day for 49ers news. I got to get back to work. And I appreciate you guys watching this breakdown of the 53. And make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you like this video. I appreciate it and hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. And peace.